Hey y'all, my name is Cassie and I am the creator of Pieces of Scrap, and in today's video we're gonna do something a little bit different, something that you guys are probably not used to seeing in like a long format video. I was kind of inspired watching a recent Crochet by Jenna video. She had mentioned that something that she possibly wanted to do is make like shorts where you just like spin a wheel of patterns that you have but you haven't gotten to make yet, and you just like make shorts doing that. But I thought what would be really cool would be to do that concept but in long video format, where I just make like 3 to 4 patterns depending on what size they are when I pull them off the wheel. I know I have some bigger projects on my unused pattern list, but I also have a lot of smaller projects as well, so there's a big mixed bag, and that will definitely dictate how many patterns we do in this video, just so that it isn't super long or super short. But anyway, I have created a random wheel where you spin it and it just selects from the patterns that I have not used before but I own. And I also thought what would be really cool was I also have a website that generates a random color palette, and I thought it would be really cool if we could do that alongside each of the patterns that we spin for this video. That way we can both have a random pattern and a random color palette, and I think that would make this a lot more interesting for you guys as well. So anyway, let me take you on a tour of our little spinning wheel as well as the color palette website and how it works if you're not familiar. Alright y'all, so I'm sat down at my computer now. I have the wheel up on my screen and I'm really excited to tell you about how this works. So starting off with the wheel, I'm just using spinthewheel.io and I made my own wheel. Every line in this little list over here is its own little piece of the wheel. And how I did it was I just wrote down the name of the pattern, and then if it was in a pattern pack that I own, I included the pattern pack in parentheses just so that I know exactly what it's from, or I would add the creator's name in parentheses if it wasn't in a pattern pack. So how this wheel works is when I spin it, it will spin for whatever amount of time and land on one of these patterns, and then once I have landed on one of the patterns, it will shoot a message up and tell me what the pattern is specifically, so we don't have to read these little slivers on the wheel to figure out what it is. We just have to see what it says when it pops up. So then on top of that, I also have this website called colors.co, and how this one works is very similar to the color wheel, except we don't really have to do any work on the back end. You just hit spacebar, and every time you hit spacebar, it generates a new color palette for you. I was thinking that we would either choose however many colors we need to finish whatever project we're working on, or we could choose just one of the colors if it's just a single color project, things like that, just to make this a little bit more interesting and to get some cooler looking finished products instead of just like basic colors that like you would see if you're getting like an animal you see out in the wild. So maybe I spin for like a monkey or something like that, and instead of brown and tan, I would have to do one of these colors that you see on screen, like this vermilion or this raspberry, together to make that monkey. I think that is a really cool idea. So let's go ahead and spin for today's patterns. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and spin for the first pattern now. Alright, so our first pattern is the Jumbo Mushroom Cow by 1 Cent Crochet. Let me go ahead and pull that up for you guys just so you know what it is. Alright, so here is the 3-in-1 Jumbo Cow pattern by 1 Cent Crochet. The Mushroom Cow is this one on the end that's red and white. It's got a little necklace with a mushroom on it, and it's just the same pattern as these other cows except different color variation and a different necklace. So that is really cool. So let's go ahead and get our color palette for this cow. Alright, that's pretty cool actually. So I'm going to go ahead and screenshot this. That'll be our color palette for our first project. So we already have a bigger project for this video, so that actually helps determine how many patterns we'll do in this video as well. So we have 1 or 2 more spins to go, so let's go ahead and spin the wheel again. All right, the next pattern that we got was the Farmer Stress Ball pattern, and let me pull that pattern up for you guys just so you know what it is. All right, so the Farmer Stress Ball is, there's 2 variations of it. There's a girl with braids, and then there's just a boy version of it. So we could do either one of those, but let's go ahead and create a color palette for it. All right, so here is our color palette. I might spin it again until we find like one that has a skin color in it, just so that we don't have a farmer that has weird alien skin color. So let's go ahead and try for that. All right, so here is our color palette. All right, now that we've done our second spin, let's spin one more time and see what we get. And if we don't get another giant pattern, I might spin it one more time after that so that we have 4 patterns total. But let's see what we get when we spin again. Alright, so we got Sylveon, the mini Pokemon by Beckmade Studio. I love her mini Pokemon patterns. This is what that looks like. This is a really simple, small pattern that we can work on as well. So let's go ahead and do the colors for it, and then we'll spin one more time. Alright, here are our Sylveon colors. I'm actually not too upset at this. I was a little worried we'd get like really off colors from this, but we don't have a white here, so we'll have to determine later in the video if we get white and black as like standard colors with our color palette or not. But let's go ahead and spin for our final pattern. Alright, so our final pattern is the tiger from the African Animals pattern pack, which I haven't done any of these since I got this, but I'm really excited for that. Let's see if we can get a good color palette for this pattern. Alright, this color palette isn't too bad. We've got some basic colors in there that we need to make a tiger. So the first pattern is the Jumbo Mushroom Cow. Let's go ahead and get started crocheting this one. Here are the colors I chose from my yarn collection. The lightest purple is Lavender and Cozy Cub by Loops and Threads. The darkest is Eggplant by Premier Parfait Chunky, and the medium purple color is Himalaya Dolphin Baby in the color 80364. And I know that these colors are not exact matches to the swatches, but I did the best with what I had available. I'm pretty familiar with this pattern because I've made the strawberry cow variation before, and I might have made the mushroom cow variation before, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't have any pictures of it. But this pattern doesn't usually stay on my shelves for very long when I have it stocked for markets. It's really eye-catching, not only because it's funky looking, but because it's a cow that you don't normally see at markets. I see a lot of cows people are selling that stand on 2 legs, but this one has 4 legs and it's quadruped, so it stands on all 4 of those legs, and you don't have to worry about leaning it against anything to display it because it just stands up on its own, which is something I really like about this pattern. In general, I also think this pattern is really adorable, and I love how chunky the finished product is. My only complaint about this pattern is that the head and all of its pieces take a lot of sewing to assemble it. So for me, that adds a lot of time and makes this plushie higher priced. I think the price I typically put it at is about $40 each. The next pattern is the Farmer Girl Stress Ball, and I was actually fairly excited about this pattern because Karen, the creator, actually gifted this pattern to me as a thank you for reviewing her clownfish pattern, so thank you, Karen. I was actually pretty pleased with our color palette for this one. I never would have picked this combination on my own, so it was really cool to see how these colors looked together. The colors that I chose are Premier Parfait Chunky in Shell, Baby Bee Adorable in Viva Violetta, and Green Tambourine, Big Twist Baby Bear in Sage, and Big Twist Posh in Oyster Mushroom. This pattern is no-sew, so it was a pretty quick make. However, there are a lot of different elements to this pattern that make it a little bit longer than I was expecting it to take. Luckily, none of those pieces needed to be sewn on, otherwise it would have taken even longer. I was almost done working on this pattern, but I got really unlucky in the game of Yarn Chicken and I ran out of my hat color. And unfortunately, I didn't have any other color like this in my collection, so I had to go through my worsted weight yarn, and I ended up picking the same color I used to tie the braids to finish off the hat. Luckily, I ran out of yarn near the back of the hat, so it's not super obvious when you take a quick glance at the finished plushie. I also noticed that the back of this plushie's head looked a little awkward where the color change happened, so I ended up crocheting some more half double crochets across the back of the head to add more dimension to the hair to hide that transition. Pattern number 3 was Sylveon, and this color palette was causing me a lot of issues, but I was determined to make it work somehow. So I ended up pulling out this ombre Bernat blanket yarn in the color Ocean Teal, and I used both the lightest shade of teal and the darkest shade of teal in this skein for 2 of the colors in our palette, and then I also grabbed Bernat blanket in smoky green and dark teal, as well as loops and threads Sweet Snuggles Light in ice green. Once I had the colors picked out, I used the pen tool in my photo editor to match the colors to each color swatch so that I didn't get confused while I was crocheting. And this step actually took a lot more time than I was expecting because I had the extra challenge of choosing colors based on how much of each color I had available to crochet with, because I was going to have to play Yarn Chicken yet again with the tiny amount of dark teal that I had left, as well as the ombre yarn, because it was really hard to tell how much of each I had left. Luckily, I had 2 different skeins of ombre yarn left, but I still had to go through the yarn and cut apart the colors that I needed from those skeins. Hey y'all, so I have made some progress on the different amigurumi that I'm working on in this video, so I thought I'd share the progress with you so far. So first off, I finished the mushroom cow pattern. Here is how it turned out. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that it looks so cute. It almost looks like it should be a grape cow because of all the different shades of purple, but instead we've got a little mushroom in the front, and I'm not sure if it's like immediately obvious that this is like a little mushroom, but I embroidered some little spots on the mushroom cap so that hopefully it's a little bit more obvious. I also chose some sparkly safety eyes for the eyes of this cow, and they're purple, of course. I also did a little bit different from what the pattern says with the tail, because you're supposed to chain off of the body to create the tail, and then you're supposed to increase back on the chain into every chain. But instead of doing that, I increased in like the first 2 or 3 chains, and then I just slip stitched in the rest of them, so that instead of like a curly pigtail. I have like it almost looks like there's hair at the end of it, and it's just like kind of wavy, which I think I like a little bit better, but I'm really happy with how this cow turned out. I couldn't remember how much sewing was involved in this pattern since the last time I made it, but I do know that these are very popular at markets, so they are worth making. I usually make the little strawberry cows, but I think now that I think about it, since making this one, I think I did make a mushroom cow at one point, so technically I have made this pattern before, but it was like a white and red mushroom cow, so I guess technically the only one from this pattern pack that I haven't made before is the cookie cow, but we'll just have to do that one next time, possibly, if we spin it again. But I'm still really happy with how this turned out, and like I was saying, these sell really well at markets whenever I have them. They're really eye-catching. People just don't usually see this kind of cow. They usually see like mini cows or those baby cows that I usually have, the ones that stand up on two legs instead of having all four like this. And it's just really nice to display anywhere because it stands up on its own, as you can see. So it's a really nice display item to have. You don't have to like lean it against a shelf or a wall or anything like that. It's really adorable. But anyway, on to the next pattern. The next pattern was the Farmer Stress Balls pattern, and I chose to do the girl version, the girl variation. This is a pattern by Coffee and Crochet 01. I've done pattern tests for her before. All of her patterns are really cool, and there's quite a few of them actually in the wheel that I haven't used before, but we have a lot of potential to get one of her patterns. But here is how it turned out. I thought it was really cute. I did do the braids a little bit differently, as well as the bangs a little bit differently than the pattern calls for, just because I wasn't a huge fan of how they were coming out, so I just ended up doing something a little bit different here. For the bangs, I just half double crocheted into all of the open front loops that we left in one of the rows that you're supposed to just like sew around basically, but I wasn't really sure what the instructions were trying to tell me to do. Then for the braids, instead of like tying a knot at the top, I just braided it all together into strands, and then I tied a bow with some worsted weight yarn that I had left over. And then another thing I wanted to mention was before I finished the little cowgirl hat up here, I did run out of this main color, so I ended up using some of that worsted weight yarn up top here as well, but it was like the closest yarn color I had to this. I don't have anything else like this color, unfortunately, so thankfully it's in the back instead of the front, and it's not immediately obvious. I'm really happy with the color combination too. I think I used every color in this palette, and I'm just so happy with how it looks together. It's really cute. Honestly, I wouldn't have ever thought of pairing this sage color with a different green color. I think it's really cute though, and this violet color is really nice with it all as well. And I just really enjoy what this one turned out looking like. This is probably my favorite so far, specifically because I don't think I've ever made anything from this pattern pack before, so it was just like a whole new experience for me, and I was expecting them to be smaller, but it's a bit bigger than I was expecting, which is a nice surprise because it took me a little bit longer than I was expecting too. So that means when I sell this at markets, I can price it a little bit higher than I typically would to hopefully sell it. But I think it's a really cute little make, and I'm probably going to make more from this pattern pack in the future then, if not more little farmer girls with their cute little braids. Maybe I can even make like a little Wednesday. I think that would be really cool too. And then the third pattern was the Sylveon pattern by Beck Made Studio, and for this one we had a really weird color palette. I had to do a lot of mix and matching schemes, like what color I was gonna pair with what color for this pattern specifically, because I think if I were to do it on my own, I would have picked like a white in here somehow to kind of balance the colors a little bit more, but instead we get this like almost glow in the dark looking Sylveon. I think it is really interesting to look at. I don't think it's immediately obvious that it is Sylveon though. But I still really like the pattern, and it's a really quick market make. I also haven't made one of these mini Pokemon in like larger weight patterns before, so these are all like Bernat sized yarns here that I used for this one. And typically when I'm working with like Premier Parfait sized yarns, using a 5mm hook, it comes out to about like this size. So it came out quite a bit bigger than I'm used to these mini Pokemon patterns coming out. And I know if you guys are not familiar, and maybe this is the first video that you're watching from me, Beckmade Studio has a bunch of different mini Pokemon patterns. She released all of her Evee evolutions recently, and I was a pattern tester for one of them. Actually, her Glaceon pattern is the one that I tested. But when I tested it, she was gracious enough to give us access to all of the patterns as well. So this was one of those patterns that I hadn't gotten to try out yet. But she also has like the first generation starter Pokemon, so like Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur. There's also Snorlax, and there is Mew, Togepi, Fanpy. She has a Gengar pattern. She also has a mini dragon pattern that you can make into a Charizard if you want. And there's so many more that I probably can't think of right now. I think there's Bellossom, and there's just so many more. And she's coming out with so many more patterns as well. So make sure you check that out if you have not already. They're great market makes, and people love seeing little mini Pokemon as well. So anyway, I'll stop bragging about this and set that down. So we have one more pattern to make in this video, and it is the tiger pattern. And I was so happy when I rolled the colors for that palette. The first roll, I got some pretty similar colors to what we're already using. That being said, I might need to re-roll the pattern colors if I don't have those colors on my shelf. So I'm gonna go ahead and look at that palette now and see if I can find some colors that will match that, and if I have enough of those said colors. Otherwise, we might need to re-roll the palette and hope that we have some colors in that palette that I actually have. It's time to crochet the final plushie, this tiger, and I was really excited about this project because I've been wanting to make this one for a while now. Here are the colors I chose. I had a hard time finding an exact match, but this is the closest I could get. The white, red, and orange are Premier Parfait Chunky in white, ruby, and mango, and then the dark purple or brown color is Bernat Velvet and Mocha, which I don't even know if they sell that anymore. This pattern was honestly so fun to make. Usually I don't like making patterns with a lot of color changes, but I think this one was different because it was striped instead of spotted, so it was easier to manage all of the colors I was working with. I used to struggle a lot with color changes, and they looked a lot messier than they're appearing here, but I've found a technique that works really well with amigurumi, and I know some of you were asking about what I was talking about in my last tapestry crochet video, so here is the technique. Whenever I make a color change, I finish the entire stitch that happens before the color change, and then I pull the new color through and tighten the loop. When it's the first time I'm making the color change, I'll tie off the ends inside of my work, but because this wasn't the first color change I made in this part of the body, I just tightened the stitches where I made the color change and I moved on. This technique makes the color changes a lot cleaner and it doesn't look as messy. I also noticed a difference in the appearance of my color changes when I stopped carrying the yarn in every stitch on the inside of my work. So instead I float the yarn. That just means instead of making stitches around a yarn tail until the yarn tail is gone, instead I make those stitches around maybe every 3, 4, or 5 stitches on the inside of my work. Sometimes that technique causes some issues when stuffing. If you pull that yarn too tight, the tension of your project will look really weird. So just make sure you leave those yarn tails on the inside loose. When I got to the white patch on the tiger's body, I ended up cutting all of the yarn tails that I had floated through that white section, and I tied them off on either side of the white patch so that you couldn't see the colors poking through the white patch. I think that helped a lot to make sure the color changes looked as clean as possible. Hey guys, so I have finished the last pattern in this video, and it is the Tiger African Animal pattern bundle from Kay's Plushies. This is one of the patterns that is offered in that bundle, and honestly guys, I've been waiting way too long to try any of these patterns. I got them right after they were announced that they were released because I was so excited to try them as a tester. I never got chosen to be a tester for this pattern bundle, but I was so excited and I really wanted to support the creator by purchasing the pattern bundle when it came out, just because I was so excited to try them out for myself. I'm just really down on myself that I hadn't picked them up and tried them since I purchased them. I think it's been like a year and a half. So I'm so happy that I finally made this cute little tiger. He's so cute. I love how he turned out. The color combination, I wasn't expecting it to look this good. I feel like the ruby red works really well with this mango orange color, and so does the little nose. I was a little worried because of the pattern photos having like a pink nose on their tiger that it wasn't going to look as nice with like this almost purple brown color, but I really like it a lot. And I messed around with the eye color as well. I was debating whether or not I did yellow or green, but I did end up going with the green glitter safety eyes, and I love how it turned out. He's so cute. I did alter some of the things in the pattern a little bit just to make it work a little bit better for me, starting with the fact that the pattern doesn't actually have a tail for this tiger, so I ended up writing my own like kind of design for it. And by writing, I didn't actually write it down, I just kind of improvised it. So my tail starts with 2 rounds of just 6 single crochets, and then we go into the main body color, the orange, 2 rounds of that, and then we alternate until we get to like the desired length of your tail. And then once I got to almost the end, I think it was like 2 or 3 rounds before the end, I started just decreasing it one time in the rows near the start of the row, just so that we started to get this little tapering effect near the top. And then once I finished doing that, I just single crocheted across the fold to make it easier to sew to the body. And that's also something that I altered with the arms as well. In the pattern itself, you don't single crochet across the fold for the arms, but I ended up doing that just because I prefer to sew body parts on that way, or crochet body parts on that way. Unfortunately, this pattern doesn't have you crochet the arms before the body, so I wasn't able to construct it the way that I normally would, where I would just crochet the arms into the body. But it wasn't really a huge deal. With hindsight being 2020, in the future I would probably make the arms first and then just crochet them into the body just to save myself some time. And then the other thing that I altered a little bit about this pattern too is the ears. So the ears are normally just one piece, so you have one white round and then the second round is whatever your darker body color is. And I wasn't super satisfied with what that looked like, because once you turned the tiger to the back, you were still seeing that white on the back side. And I prefer my tiger's back of the ear to be the same body color, the main body color. So what I ended up doing was I made 2 pieces for each ear, one just following the pattern as written, and then the second one I just did the same thing but all in the orange body color, the main body color. And then after that, I sandwiched the 2 pieces of the ear together and crocheted around them so that they were together. So single crochet through both parts, and I think I increased in each stitch in the ruby red color here, and that way I wouldn't have to sew those 2 pieces together, and it looks really nice. And then after that, of course, I just sewed them to the head. So those are the only alterations I made to this pattern. I kind of like being able to make alterations. Normally for videos, I try not to, because typically when I'm crocheting a plushie for a video, it's for my free pattern review series, and I try to follow those as strictly as I can to the pattern instructions so that you guys can see exactly what it looks like when you follow all of those instructions. I do bend the rules a little bit when it comes to like sewing things that could just be crocheted into the body and there wouldn't be like much of a visual difference there. But when there are things like this where there are pieces missing that might improve the overall look and feel of a project, or things like the tail, just like completely missing instructions for the tail, I would just normally forego making those. But that's what I like about this video, is because it's kind of like a freestyle, do whatever I want, just follow the pattern, finish the pattern type thing, and I get to make what I want to make, which is really nice. And I like to improve what things look like if I can. One more thing I want to show you guys about this pattern that kind of happened on accident is when I made this tail, it ended up being like almost as long as the legs. So really cool thing about this tiger is when you stand it on a flat surface, the tail kind of acts as a kickstand. So as you can see, my tiger here is not leaning up against anything at all. I'll move this lighter back here just so you see. I moved the lighter just so you guys can see a little bit better. I had a candle lighter back there. It kind of looked like he was propped up on it a little bit, but I moved him. He's not leaning on anything right now. And he can stand up on his own with that tail design I made, which is really impressive because normally when you get plushies that look like that have just like the 2 feet and that's what they're supposed to stand on or lean against something, like you can't normally stand them up. They don't have that balance. They're usually too top heavy, or they just don't have enough flat surface on the bottom of their feet to stand up on their own. So that's why I think it's really cool that the tail design allowed for my tiger to just be able to stand up on its own. That was not something I was intending to do, but that was like a nice little consequence of just impromptu pattern design, I guess. But anyway, I really enjoyed crocheting all these plushies for you. I think my favorite out of all 4 patterns has definitely got to be the tiger, and then the farm girl after that, and then probably the jumbo cow, and then of course the Sylveon. They're all really awesome patterns. I am really surprised I haven't made some of these before because I've had them all for a while, except for Sylveon, of course. So definitely let me know if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of these videos in the future. I really enjoyed making this video. So I would love to hear y'all's feedback, to hear if you guys liked watching this, if you like the random color palette as well, and that will let me know if I should make more of these videos in the future. And with all of that being said, I do have an announcement that I need to make before the very end of this video, so don't click away yet. My announcement is kind of a sad one, and it's just that I am going to start posting videos every other week instead of what I currently do, which is every week on Tuesday at 11:30 Central Time. I post a video. It's just going to go to every other week, and that is just going to allow me more time to make better videos for you guys, have more time to make more things in videos as well, because right now I feel like it's really hard for me to get done everything I want to get done for a video. A great example of that is my last FPR video, the K-pop Demon Hunters FPR video. If you're not familiar, those are videos where I review free patterns that are found on the internet that you don't typically see reviews for because nobody's buying and reviewing them like you see on Etsy or other pattern selling websites. And typically in these videos, I've been trying to make 3 of each plushie in different sized yarns. But for my last FPR video, I didn't have enough time to make 3 of each just because of the size of those projects and just the nature of what I was doing, trying to get like a trending topic video out before it's not relevant anymore. So because of that, I want to switch my video schedule to every other week I post instead of every week. That will give me more time to crochet for videos, more time for planning and making sure everything makes sense, and making sure the video is edited fully and I'm not just like rushing through it so that it gets out on time. I also wanted to show you some of the little things that I've been collecting that I've really wanted to do reviews on. So starting off with, as an example, earlier this year, Crochet by Jenna released her first pattern book, and I did a 3-part video series where I reviewed the book itself. I crocheted every single pattern that was in the book, and I gave you my thoughts about which were my favorite patterns in each section, whether or not you should get the book, and if there's a good value for what you're paying for in this pattern book. And since I've done that, I've been reflecting and slowly gathering more pattern books that I want to try out. And I have 4 of those here, so as a little sneak peek of what is coming in the future with my new video upload schedule, I've got 3 pattern books here. So starting off with this Zoo Agurumi book. I found this at Barnes & Noble. It's an endangered animals crochet book, and it's got so many cute little patterns in here. And just to see the back for you guys, there are like pandas, there's a hummingbird, red panda, there's a cockatiel or a parrot, there's this spider, a polar bear, penguin, whale, and of course you also got these really cute little gorillas. There's tons of patterns in this, but I just haven't had time to review this yet. And on top of that, I have even more books to show you. I got Teresa Crochet Shop, her amigurumi plushies book, which I think came out either this year or last year. Yeah, it was published in 2024. So I've really been wanting to review this book as well for you guys, but I still haven't had time. I also just got this book from my friend CJ. She brought it down for me when she came to visit me a couple weeks ago, and I haven't had time to start any of these plushies yet either, but I picked up the yarn that I need to make some, and I really want to review this book as well. And then finally, I just got this in the mail yesterday. This was a freebie that the publisher itself sent me so that I could review some of the patterns and share my thoughts. And just all of this being said, I really want to get back into making good quality content for you guys, doing bigger review videos that span across multiple episodes so that you can determine if it's worth your money to get things like this. Another thing I'm really excited about, but I haven't had time to start yet, is this Granny Square flower card deck. And I also heard that they just announced another card deck that's going to come out soon. And I want to make all of those. I want to make all of these. I want to make another blanket or maybe some pillow shams, things like that. But just with my video upload schedule as it is right now, I just don't have time to pursue bigger projects like these. So that is why I'm really excited, and I hope you're excited too that big projects are coming. It's just going to require that I switch up my video schedule a little bit so that I can allow myself time to work on these big projects. And I'm really sorry if that's disappointing to you guys, but I promise big things are coming. Content that you actually want to watch and not just quick videos that I can put together just to meet a deadline. They are coming too. And I hope that you guys appreciate that and continue watching my videos when they come out, even though they might come out a little bit farther apart now. And truly, I sympathize with people who will be disappointed. I feel the same way whenever I hear a creator that I love and I follow announce that they're going to switch up their video schedule. But for those of you who feel disappointed, I just hope that you truly understand that allowing myself more time to make these videos will make them better, and it will also make my life a little bit easier because this isn't my only thing that I'm doing. I'm also really involved with my church, and my church is really important to me. I have friends that are really important to me. Family is really important to me, and I really need to balance both of those things and not just focus solely all of my efforts into YouTube. And recently, it's felt like if I needed to see my family, I had to put YouTube on the back burner and like pretend that it didn't exist. Or if there was something coming up with YouTube, like a market or something like that, it's felt like I needed to push all of my family and friends aside so that I can focus on whatever that video was. So I think this is going to be really healthy for me, and I hope that you guys support me along the journey of just working through this transition to switch up the video schedule so that it just makes more sense for me and for everybody. But yeah, all of that being said, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching my channel if you do, and thank you for giving me all the thumbs up and all the comments. That really helps me a lot to expand the channel more and for more people to see my videos. So I appreciate that so much, and just know that this isn't the end. This is just a beginning to bigger and better things, and I hope you guys will continue following me along that journey. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks instead of next week, in 2 weeks. So I will see you guys when I see you. Bye.